Hi, Paul. It's Mary. I just want you to know the meeting is muted and you won't see anything until the meeting is actually adjourned in.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Hi there. Thanks.
We'll call to order Washington County Board of Supervisors meeting. Let's begin with a moment of silent prayer and then the pledge. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call. We have Supervisor Schleif is excused. Supervisor Mahalik is, are you on? He's on Zoom. Supervisor Schulteis is excused. And is Will excused? I haven't heard from Will. So we'll begin notice of meeting. It's a meeting at Washington County Board of Supervisors. Prior to this meeting, public notice was given by posting a copy of the agenda in the office of County Clerk and emailing the agenda to the West Bend Daily News, which is the official newspaper. In addition, the agenda was emailed to CNI Newspaper, Express News, Kewaskum Statesman, the Milwaukee Journal Sentinel, WIBD, WMBZ Radio, and WTKM Radio. The above action in conformity with the state of Wisconsin's open meeting law. Begin with the consent agenda. If there's no Supervisor Sorcy, so moved. Second, Supervisor Mary. Any discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Before we go into the personal appearances, we're going to do retirement resolution 19 and 20. Both people are here, I believe. And have the clerk read it. Newly mom, Ashley Reichert.
Whereas Clark Eichstead has contributed 20 years of loyal service to the citizens of Washington County, and whereas Clark Eichstead has chosen to retire from his present position of Corrections Officer 1 in the Sheriff's Office, now therefore be it resolved that the Washington County Board of Supervisors pause in its deliberations to pay tribute and to commend Clark Eichstead for his 20 years of meritorious service. Be it further resolved that on behalf of all citizens of Washington County, this body does herewith extend to him heartfelt thanks for his many accomplishments and successes. Be it further resolved that a copy of this resolution be forwarded to Clark Eichstead as a token of appreciation on the part of this board.
Come on up. Any speech?
Well, we want to thank the county board and all the members for this acknowledgement. And also on behalf of the jail staff, we appreciate the more recent appreciation for the work we do in the jail, which wasn't always there early on. Also, I commend my sergeant, third shift sergeant, Gary Ackett, for the excellent work he's done in making me the officer that I eventually became.
Good.
Thank you very much.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Okay, resolution 20. Oh, actually, we need a motion. So moved. Second by Marcy Bishop. Bossert. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Next is resolution 20, commendation of Mark Setti.
Whereas Mark Setti has contributed 23 years of loyal service to the citizens of Washington County, and whereas Mark Setti has chosen to retire from his present position as Detective 2 in the Sheriff's Office, now therefore be it resolved that the Washington County Board of Supervisors pause in its deliberations to pay tribute and to commend Mark Setti for his 23 years of meritorious service. Be it further resolved that on behalf of all citizens of Washington County, this body does herewith extend to him heartfelt thanks for his many accomplishments and successes. Be it further resolved that a copy of this resolution be forwarded to Mark Setti as a token of appreciation on the part of this board.
So thank you so much for your service.
Appreciate it.
Both you guys, I didn't get a chance to say that, but I know what you go through, and I know what you've been going through over the last year and a half with the COVID inside, which is, I mean, just you guys persevered, and I've been 30 years a police officer, retired. I know what you're doing, and you guys are the best law enforcement agency in the state, as far as I'm concerned.
Thank you so much. Clark stole my thunder. You know what, I do mirror what Clark said. I've had a great run of it here at Washington County. I came from the State Patrol. I did 6 years there. When I came here, of course, it was, gee, am I doing the right thing? You always hope the grass is going to be greener. And I've been blessed. It has been very much greener. Not that the patrol was bad, but things have been fantastic. I've had a great career of it, a lot of support. Really have had the opportunity to work with some phenomenal people. And I again mirror what Clark has to say with what the county board has done recently with law enforcement. I really feel like you guys have taken it under the wing and shown a lot of appreciation in working with us. And I agree, it hasn't always been like that. So that's fantastic as well. And I think we're heading in a positive direction. And I'm a little biased, but I agree. I think we are the best law enforcement agency in the state.
You guys deserve the support. There's no doubt.
So thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right.
Motion. Got to do a motion again. Supervisor Markwart, Supervisor Boltman, all in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Sorry. That's why I have Mary here. So personal appearances, letters and other communications, 2020 audit presentation by Baker Tilly, and that's going to be done through Zoom.
Good evening, everyone. I will share my screen here so you can see my presentation. You can give me a thumbs up if I'm good.
Yeah, we can hear it.
Great. Well, again, my name is Paul France. I'm a partner with Baker Tilly in Milwaukee, and happy to present virtually again this year to you and share the results of the audit, which is ultimately nothing but good news to share with you tonight. So I will go through a very high level look at some of the financial information, talk a little bit about the audit process, and then let you ask any questions that you have of me about the process. So related to our status, we set out to issue an opinion on your 12/31/20 financial statements. We've done so. We've issued an unmodified opinion, also known as a clean bill of health. What that tells you is that all necessary financial disclosures have been made within your financial statement document, and that all accounting principles that need to be adopted have and have been consistently applied year over year. So when you hire an external auditor, this is ultimately the outcome that you're looking to hear at the conclusion of the audit. Within the financial report, you'll find the MD&A, Management's Discussion and Analysis, on pages 19 through 30. That gives you a very good high-level summary of comparative information between 20 and 19. And if you were to spend any time within that financial statement document, that is the portion of the document I would point you to, as it gives you a good, again, summary of that last 2 years. In addition to a financial audit, we also do perform a federal and state single audit related to your grants that you receive. That audit ultimately is still in process and should be getting wrapped up here in the next little bit, but ultimately at this point plan to issue an unmodified opinion related to that audit. Continuing on then, just a quick look at your general fund. When you put together your budget, post all the amendments, you had planned to use about $3.1 million of fund balance. You ultimately, at the end of the year, after all the activity was compiled, added to your fund balance. You had a positive swing from what you had set out of about $4.9 million. You added about $1.7 million to fund balance. So that brought the general fund balance to just below $28.5 million. On the next page here, give you just a picture of that fund balance in the general fund. Kind of trending over the past 6 years here, continually year over year, adding to it. That $28 million here is broken down into 5 different categories to help you better understand what of fund balance is available to you to spend. The biggest piece and the piece of the puzzle that's most important to understand in fund balance is what sits in unassigned, what's your reserves of your general fund, and of that 28.5 million, about 19.3 is unassigned. So very healthy financial position in your general fund. The next page here, just a quick glance at some of the other major governmental funds and a summary of your non-major governmental funds. The County Roads and Bridges Fund at year end, about $9.2 million of fund balance. Human Services, just over $900,000. Economic Development has just about $10.2 million in fund balance. And then your remaining funds are listed out here in detail and total up to about $9.8 million. The next page here summarizes your business type activities, your enterprises fund. So this would be your highway, your Samaritan Health Center, Fields of Washington County, parks, and the Family Park Golf Course, and your related internal service funds. And the one point I'll caution you here is this net position and fund balance don't equate similarly. The numbers that make up and equate net position aren't a good representation of what would be available in a reserve. And so I'd point you to page 44 and 42 in the report to see the details related to each of these enterprises funds cash positions. On the next slide, just a quick look at your available margin in your debt. You have the ability to borrow 5% of your equalized value in GO debt. You have roughly, after factoring out what money is available to pay debt service in fund balance, you have about $12 million outstanding on debt. So you've got the ability to borrow up to $850,000, about 12,000 or 12 million outstanding. So you have capacity of about $838 million for borrowings in the future if needed. Last part of my presentation, just we do issue an audit insights letter. This summarizes a lot about our audit process and the responsibilities of both ours as the auditors and management's. We lay out any recommendations that we come across during the course of the audit, list out kind of what our process is in performing the work and what accounting policies may have been adopted during the past year. It lists out the accounting estimates that we evaluated that are included within the financial reports, ultimately related to those to make sure that they're clear, neutral, and non-biased, meaning that they're appropriate to be used within the financial statements. You know, in this letter, we'd be required to communicate any difficulties that we had with management in performing the audit. I'm happy to say that we had none, and had we had any, you would have heard about them long before receiving this letter. We received nothing but cooperation and a true audit from Margie and her support team in the finance area. You know, it is, and when I say a true audit, I mean, we get work papers. There's no journal entries that need to be done. You know, and we can truly make our way through and tick and tie to your supporting records. And I would say that's I can count on my two hands the number of clients that I work with in a given year that I get to do that with. So it's you know, I've got a great crew working with your books. Lastly, we list out any non-attest services that we provide to the county, ultimately to conclude and to ensure that we're independent, which allows us to give you the opinion that we have, which again is an unmodified opinion, clean bill of health, and the highest level of assurance that you can receive from us. And so with that, I'll turn it over to you guys. If you have any questions for me, I'd be happy to answer them.
Supervisor Bossert.
Okay, I'm guessing I know the answer to this, but I just kind of want to put it on the record. I'm assuming we are still AAA rated for our bond rating, correct? Is that in there? Oh, good. All right, perfect. All right, thanks.
Any other questions? I think we should acknowledge Margie and her staff. This is a stellar, it seems like every time we get the audit, it's even better than the last one. So good job, Margie and your staff. Thank you. Well, thanks, Mr. Krantz.
Yes, thank you. It's a privilege to work with the county. And again, if there's other questions that come up throughout the year that you need me for, please don't hesitate to reach out.
Okay, very well, very good. Thank you.
Thank
you. Okay, next on the agenda is the Future Samaritan Timeline presentation by Matt Furno.
Okay, good evening. Washington County Board of Supervisors meeting on April the 14th, excuse me, 2021. We had a 2021 resolution number 5, the resolution supporting the concept of continuing long-term care for Washington County residents. The summary stated, approve the concept of continuum of care at the Samaritan Health Center for county residents with preference that a public-private partnership model be utilized. On June 16th, 2021, Nicole Petrie, the CEO of Cedar Campus, sent a letter indicating that they were no longer interested in this public-private partnership. Since then, we have been working very diligently on going this alone and looking at the possibilities of what we could recommend to the county board. We are hoping and scheduling an action session for Health and Human Services Committee on September 22nd, 2021. Following that, with their recommendation, we would come to the County Board of Supervisors in October the 13th, 2021, with a recommendation. Any questions?
No questions? Okay, seeing none. Thanks, Matt.
Yes, sir.
Actually, I'm sorry, I was kind of waving. I didn't realize I was on mute. I do have one question, if I could. Are we going to be able to use, or Mr. Chairman, I'm assuming am I okay for asking my question here?
Sure. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Matt, are we able to utilize any of the COVID relief funds or any of the what are humorously now called Biden bucks that seem to be pouring into every level of government to help in addressing what I believe is really the $1 trillion problem that nobody wants to face on a federal level, this being the care of the elderly, which I think is the biggest mountain that we're going to have to climb financially, and we're not doing anything about it as a government. Is this one of the things we might be able to address some of those dollars to?
I think that's a very good question, and you're going to learn later in our session that Samaritan presently holds about $138 million, that some of this will be spent with the patient record system. Is it 168 million. So, or
Yeah,
thousand.
1,000.
Okay,
Added a
168,000.
couple extra
Wait, yeah,
zeros.
slow down. Okay, 168,000. So, and so we'll be using that. We are looking at other pockets of money that we will apply for in grants to help us with our project.
Okay. Yeah, what's 3 zeros between friends, right?
Yeah, right, right.
Supervisors,
Are they still, Matt, are we still looking at doing a referendum?
That's, we,
I mean, it was mentioned, I'm just asking if it was still looking at.
that's something that is something that you, as the county board of supervisors, once we present in October, would determine. We're not looking into that.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. Supervisor Sorcy, you're on the Human Services Committee, and at our last meeting in June, I did state that I felt a referendum is something that the county board should look at because this is such an important issue. And as much feedback as we can get from the public on this, I think it would help us to make a final decision on how we progress on Samaritan. Whether that comes to fruition will depend on all of you agreeing to that. How it would be worded, that's all down the road. So, but I think this is something you should give some thought to, because I think this would be helpful to us, for us to make our final decision.
thank you. Let me get you.
If they themselves are going to look into that.
Good.
Thank you.
Okay. We talked too about the potential of listening sessions and informational sessions. When in the timeline do you see that happening?
Once we present to the Health and Human Services Committee and the county board after October, if we receive a green light, we'll do those things.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Between that time and this time, we are working with architects, engineers. We're looking at the overall design as well as the reimbursement from the state and federal government. So we have a number of things we need to verify and come up with a package that appears to be as reasonable as possible.
Thank you. Supervisor Mary?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. No matter which route we decide to take as a board and with the recommendations, I think we just need to have a blanket of information out to the community in Washington County. The more people I've talked to in Germantown, they have no idea what Samaritan Home even is. They don't even know it exists, let alone what its purpose is. And we really need to push for town hall meetings or some other mass communication to the public in general throughout the county to explain to them properly what our problem is. I think Chairman Creefall's letter that appeared in the West Bend News this last week did an excellent job of laying out the challenge and what some of the opportunities might be. But before we're going to get any support for any kind of a referendum, or whether we take the actions on ourselves without a referendum, we've got to have some kind of just a blitz of information to the county, not for or against, but just basically what is the problem. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Supervisor Marquardt.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Matt, since the board expressed a wish back in April, obviously we had a target in mind, but to try to pursue a public-private partnership, are there any other entities in the area that we could approach or work with in any way to place a certain number of beds or something on that order and continue pursuing that option?
To the best of my knowledge, that doesn't exist. The other entities are for profit. And this was a very a very excellent opportunity with Cedar. They were sitting with 400 beds, with utilizing today around 70, seeking around 50 beds in the future, near future. And so our game plan was to take over the entire third floor and parts of the first floor. And it was ideal. It was a win-win solution. I don't honestly see anything in Washington County that could offer such a thing. Yeah.
Thank you. Any other questions? Hearing none. Thanks, Matt.
Yeah.
Resolution 2021, Resolution 21, adoption of Amendment 2021-1 of a multi-jurisdictional comprehensive plan for Washington County 2050 substantial agreement framework. I'll take a motion. Supervisor Krebs, Supervisor Smisek. Are there any questions on this? Okay, seeing none, we'll vote on this electronically. We're good. Motion passes unanimously. 2021 resolution, I'm sorry, 2021 ordinance 5 amend section 179-9 of the code relating to comprehensive plan. Any questions on this? Supervisor, motion. Supervisor Krebs, Supervisor Galtz, Supervisor Mary.
I'm sorry.
Okay. All right. No problem. Any other questions? Okay, we'll vote on this electronically. Motion passes unanimously. 2020 Resolution 22, adoption of Amendment 2021-2 of a multi-jurisdictional comprehensive plan for Washington County 2050 future land use plan map. A motion, Supervisor Smisek, Supervisor Kelling. Any discussion? Hearing none. Ready? Okay, we'll vote on this electronically. Everybody in? Motion passes unanimously. 2021 ordinance 6 amend section 179-9 of the code relating to comprehensive plan. A motion, Supervisor Mary, Supervisor Sorcy. Any discussion? Everybody did their reading. Okay, seeing no discussion, we will vote on this electronically. Motion passes unanimously. Resolution 2021, Resolution 23, transfer from the General Fund, Economic Development of Washington County, EDWC Sustainability Plan. This is a 2/3 vote. A motion. Motion, Supervisor Dice, Supervisor Bossert. Any discussion? Supervisor Gonring.
Yes, thank you. Back a couple of years ago, in fact, I believe it was 17,
if my memory serves me right, we entered into an agreement with EDWC that by the year 2022, by the end of that year, we were going to have certain things in place. My question is to everybody here, why are we completing it a year and 5 months in advance? I don't have a crystal ball what we're going to have in our tax fund for the rest of this year. I don't have any crystal ball of what we're going to be having in sales tax for next year. I think we really should keep this in our general fund until at least, towards the end of our commitment time. That's all I've got to say.
Okay, thank you. Supervisor Krebs.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In the staff report, it says that staff has determined that it would be beneficial to complete the commitment this year. What's beneficial about it?
So right now, our agreement with EWC is fulfilled through sales tax revenues. As we experienced this past year, those sales tax revenues could have a lot of fluctuation in them. We've been fortunate that our sales tax revenues have actually increased due to a change in shopping habits for our residents. But there's no guarantee that that will continue. So in my opinion, we've got the funds now, our sales tax are performing well. I'd rather pay it off, be done with it, so that we don't need to overcommit sales tax next year if we don't need to.
Thank you.
Okay. That's Supervisor Gallus.
Thank you, Chair. So just hearing from our audit, mind you, that was for last year, but we are oversubscribed to our minimum policy and our fund balance, correct?
Correct.
So we will retain or maintain that floor, if you will.
Correct.
Is there any, well, I know where we're investing our funds today is little to nothing. So that trade-off is a rounding error. Okay. Then the other question I had, does the EWC benefit from any of this funds being made available sooner? Meaning, are there any pent-up demands that would assist or that they then could use and distribute?
It does. Oh, do you want to? Go ahead.
We have undeployed funds right now within that fund. So I wouldn't say there's any significant benefit on their end to increase that fund at this time.
Okay. So it's more of a in-house, maybe finance, accounting, clean up one fund to the other, and as you said, be done with it.
Yep.
Thank you.
The obligation is ended.
Yes.
So. Okay, any other questions? Any discussion? Okay, we'll vote on this electronically. Again, it's a 2/3 vote. Motion passes 19-4. 20-4. 2021 Resolution 24, authorization to enter into public-private partnerships and to apply for and accept broadband grant funding on behalf of municipalities, residents, or businesses in Washington County. Take a motion to accept. Supervisor Bishop, Supervisor Sheldon. Is there any discussion? Any questions? Scott is here if there are any questions. Supervisor Krebs.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. When it says enter into public-private partnerships, are those, have they been identified which partnerships those are, or is this more the concept of it?
I'm going to defer to, let me get them on here. Hold on.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Right now, I define them as conceptual. We've been in contact with 6 different service providers, but none have come through with a contract yet or anything for us to look at to actually sign on and approve. What we're looking at now is the ARPA funds are available from the state early June. They are due by the end of July. And so we want to bring this to the committee and to the board as quickly as we could in case there was someone that brought something forward to us to be able to sign on. They do get bonus points just by us signing on with no funds attached to it. But we anticipated hopefully that we'd be able to get some providers. But you can imagine with a 2-month window, every community in the state is contacting the same several service providers, and trying to get on the top of their list has been challenging, to say the least. But we are continuing to effort. We got 2 meetings set up this Friday with other service providers, but right now we don't have anyone on the line, so to speak.
Okay. Well, if there is a partnership that's identified, it would still have to go through the typical county process for as far as through the purchasing office, or
For funding,
yes, for funding or just for the
no,
contract.
the funding would come through the committees and board, but to sign the contract wouldn't go through necessarily through purchasing, because it's a grant application. So basically, let's just use Charter as an example, would be doing the grant. We would sign on as a partner with them. And if they asked us to provide funding, then we'd come to the committee and the board to say, how much would you like to fund a Charter, an Ethoplex, or whatever, firm that's out there right now. So that would be coming to us, and then we're providing some funds for them for a grant. It wouldn't be competitively bid.
Okay.
There is an option out there to look at, and when we're looking at it, if we don't get anybody to do some service now, is to go out to that bidding process through our own purchasing department to see if we can get some more interest to come in.
Okay.
There's hopefully to be another round of funding coming up in fall.
So I'm assuming there's no money budgeted in this year's budget for it. So any partnership that does involve money would have to come back case by case, I guess.
Yes, 100%. There's no budgeted funds for it.
Okay, thank you.
Supervisor Gallus.
Sort of, I think the question may have asked, but maybe a little differently. Would you anticipate any, I guess, co-funding? I know in the past there's been some grants and it requires a county or other municipality to contribute X amount.
How the current grants are set up is that they get bonus points for every checkbox they get on there. And one of the checkboxes is co-funding. But even co-funding could be $1,000, because it doesn't matter if it's $1,000, $1 million, right? They just, as long as there's co-funding, they can check that box that they've got that to get 10 as bonus points. It's just like us signing on to a contract or now with any provider, they get 10 bonus points just because we put our name on the application with them. I fully anticipate hopefully at some point we'll get some provider to come to us to supply some grant funding. If not, we'd bring that opportunity for a request for proposals or a request for information and go out there and see if we can get some broadband interest in Washington County. We believe as a staff, this is a real issue out there, as we've been meeting with different towns and citizens, that we do believe broadband is a rather big issue in the county. Not in every location, obviously, but certainly in some.
Supervisor Mary.
Thank you, Mr. Kind of a timetable here that we can be talking about, such that we should see something happening within the next 6 months, 18 months, 24 months. What's our total calendar here in terms of the scope of the entire project?
So currently there is no project on the table right now. We're looking at granting opportunities right now by the ARPA funds by the state of Wisconsin, using their money from the federal government. And then we're hoping that the state with their budget will have another funding cycle coming through. Right now you've seen the legislator and the governor going back and forth on how much money to spend on broadband. And traditionally those funds will be available in fall of this year. And we're hoping to get some partnerships going by that time to bring back to the board for any potential funding, mutual funding at that time. So right now there's no timeline of anything right now. We're just coming for this. We got this grant cycle that's out there right now. Then we're going to regroup, look to see if we've got to go out there for requests for proposals, taking that to Public Works Committee if that's what they want to do. There are funding out there. If you remember the white paper, there are what's called RDOF money, Rural Digital Opportunity Fund. But again, they have to have that complete by the year 2027. And so they got several more years yet to do that. If you look at one of the maps, right, of getting fiber optic to a lot of the homes, mostly in the northern tier, town of Farmington, Wayne, Kewaskum, and then down to the town of Erin. So hopefully, but are you going to be patient and wait, or is it much more of an urgent need than that right now?
Thank you, Chairman. Scott, when you're talking about a contract, I mean, is that a company that would be coming to express interest in a region of the county that they're looking to expand into, just, or to what level of detail would that be?
It could be as anything as one town. It could be as anywhere as a census block, one area. We just don't know. We're just waiting to see. So there's a subdivision on the town of Jackson called Strawberry Glen, right along the east, part of the property, eastern line of the county off of Highway 60. They brought fiber optic just to that subdivision. They could have came to us and asked the county, would you be a willing partner? So it could be down to the subdivision level. It could be to a town level. We're obviously hoping for countywide level, right? And like that RDOF that I'm talking about in 2026, it'd be great if they could do that in 2022 or 2023 and not wait that long and have our county be put to the front of that. But when you look at the statewide map, that CCO Holdings Charter Communication has a lot of area in the state to do in the next 6 years.
Thank you.
Supervisor Conrad.
Thank you. I just want to clarify from Supervisor Krebs' question regarding if anything would be decided upon that was outside our budget already because of the verbiage from line 32 to 38. Further be it resolved that this board authorizes the Washington County Public Works Director, Information Technology Director, or designee to act on behalf of Washington County to apply for and accept grant funding. And then it's further be resolved that the county exec is authorized to execute the necessary grant agreement in order to obtain grant funding. So, sometimes too, a grant doesn't cover all the expenses, all the needs that are identified. So I just want to make sure with this legal verbiage that if things truly fall outside what is already budgeted, it comes back to this board or not? Or are we completely giving that authority over?
I don't know if the attorney wants to, seems like more of an attorney question than a engineer question, but no, the thought process is no, we would not expend any expenditures. We can't spend the funds without your approval. That makes sense.
Any type of matching grant, if we would have to take money from the general fund to fund it, that would come back to this body. Okay. Any further questions? Thanks, Scott. We'll vote on this electronically. Motion passes 23-1.
Mr. Chairman, just a quick question, if I may.
Go ahead.
Thank you. I just wanted to know if, at your deference, if I could be the person who moves for Resolution 25, the transfer to the general fund for IT, seeing that's the administrative committee's purview, and I'd just like to be the person who moves that, if that would be okay.
Yes.
Okay, you're just about to call for it, and I know that I'm not in the audience, so.
Okay. All right. Supervisor Kelly. Supervisor Kelly? No, sorry. Okay. All right. So motion passes 23-1. 2021 Resolution 25 is going to be held till after closed session. Action regarding use of pandemic response funds for Samaritan electronic health record. Matt had spoken about that. You want to give the numbers back again, Julie?
Services Director. We have received $168,000 in pandemic response funding, and the request here today is to use about $91,000 of that for the implementation and 1 year of monthly service fees to implement a new electronic health record. I'm aware that there is a question on the table about the future of Samaritan, so I'll address that up front. So regardless of whatever the future of the Samaritan is, we're currently still serving residents and need to assure their highest quality of care. And we know that whatever the future might be, we'll be in business for a couple of more years for sure. And currently the system that we have is very difficult to use for assuring the safety of residents. And we've had several of our state surveyors and auditors come in and tell us that the system is very difficult to review the quality of care for our patients. So we are requesting to implement this electronic health record this fall and use these dollars to pay for the monthly subscription fee, and then the fee will be budgeted into 2023. We currently have a system and we currently are paying monthly fees, and so that is not a new expense for us, although it is slightly increased from what we're currently paying.
Okay, with questions, Supervisor Mahalik?
No, I'm good.
Okay, your hand's raised, so.
Oh, I'm sorry. That was for the last thing I talked about. Okay,
Okay.
sorry.
I just want to add one more comment to what Julie has said. In looking at the papers that were provided to us, I think this sentence is also important for everyone to consider, and that is that it is estimated with an improved system that we are proposing, we can increase our billable revenue by 10 to 15% annually. So that's another positive for voting for this in favor of it.
Thank you. Supervisor Gauss.
I don't have any objections to it, but I'm trying to understand, how does this align with a software implementation the board approved a couple of years ago, and including, I think, the last month or two, we carried over funds for that from 1 year to another, as it's a 2 or 3 year implementation. Is this part of that, and this solution some of that sooner?
So that is not part of that. What you approved several years ago was for the Human Services Department for their electronic health record. This is for Samaritan specifically.
Thank you for that, because they were both talking about similar billing and such, so I appreciate it.
Same issues, different departments.
Supervisor Kelly.
I didn't need the musical introduction, Mr. Bossert, but I appreciate that. Ms. Dice, Mr. Chairman, Ms. Dice did steal a little bit of my thunder. I think that's an excellent point. It was an excellent point. But I'm curious to know, based on that question, approximately how much recuperation would that extra, say, was it 10 to 15%, I think you said, in actual dollars, how much would you estimate that would equate to, Mr. Chair?
So it could be $900,000 to $1 million if we achieve that 10 to 15%. What we know with our current electronic health record is that we're not coding things accurately, and it's hard to track the billing capabilities of the system. And so we know that we're leaving money on the table, and that there's a lot more efficiency that we could create in drawing down the dollars. So that is the estimate that we have.
So, Mr. Chairman, this is something that could potentially pay for itself sevenfold based on the numbers that I just heard. Thank you.
Just curious,
How long have we been using the current system?
I believe we've had this system, we implemented it about 6 or 7 years ago. But what is very similar in when we came forward to this board for human services is we know that technology rapidly improves. And so a system that may have been, we thought, top of the line 6 or 7 years ago is not the case today, as well as, several years ago, most entities like a government human services and a government nursing home were not at the top of the line of implementing technology. And so the landscape of technology has reached out to us and met our need. And this particular system, 53% of nursing homes in the state of Wisconsin use this system.
Thank you.
Seeing no further questions, we can vote. I mean, the motion first. Motion Supervisor Dice, Supervisor Kelling. I'll vote on this electronically. Make sure you're voted. Everybody in? Chocolate covered cream filled is my favorite. That's yeah. Motion passes unanimously. Closed session is next. If it pleases the floor, would you like a 5-minute break? Okay, 5-minute break.